Hey, how you doing, brother?
I think I'll manage, at least in a mad rush. It's thunderstorming around here, so, the connections, what do they call it? Connectivity is marginal.
Okay.
Also, some idiot bro burnt up six 5G towers saying they caused COVID-19. He also claimed that radio caused the flu epidemic of 1918, and in the 19th century he claims that the telegraph caused smallpox. Uh,
Well, um,
Real dumb, but anyway,
a lot of news to cover, Judge, and you just the man I wanted to do it. That's why I gave you a text today.
our first
So this
our first Indian American being nominated for vice president.
black women are very happy.
Black woman.
They think she black.
They announced her. She claimed credit when she got sworn in by Vice President Biden that she was proud to be the first Indian American U.S. senator.
That's
She
right.
added in Hindu, as in
Isn't that something?
Far East.
Yeah.
They said she's a Hindu and called her a liar for claiming to be Black American. Her mother's Hindu. People say, well, they look black. Well, so do most Hindu, for that matter of fact, or at least a lot of them.
Well, so what do you think about her? You know a lot about her since you were in California, so you
Yeah,
know.
she's a crook. She's corrupt. She takes bribes. She's got a hookup with Soros, and there was a bank out there that had multiple indictments returned against it and its president. San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, Sacramento. They had many, many indictment counts, several thousand. But California's got a unique thing that says the state attorney general can quash indictments, and she did. So she quashed the indictments, and there were several million put into her campaign fund to get her to be U.S. senator, and a lot of campaign contributions have been put in by the same parties who were subject to those indictments. That's corruption. Matter of fact, in my 50 years of being involved in this, I would say that one of the most abjectly corrupt group of people are career prosecutors. Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and they don't really have anybody to answer to, so absolute corruption. They take what they do as gamesmanship, too many of them, and they lose track of all of the lives they ruin. Now, a lot of people are wrong. A lot of people need to be in jail, but she was zealously in favor of exploiting black men as her bete noir, literally her boogeymen that she could throw out there. You'll note that when she announced her candidacy in the early part of the primary in Oakland, you had maybe 10, 15 blacks in that whole crowd. People don't like her. I had in laws, former in laws, that lived in the Bay Area. My wife was born in San Francisco, and they hated Kamala Harris. I'll tell you something else that is a shame. As the first Indian American, there were some big problems that the Indian American, well, first Indian American senator. There are some big problems that that community faces from the importation of what they call caste and untouchability. The people at the bottom are viewed as being so low on the totem pole that they can't be physically touched. And if you get touched by one of them, you have to go through purification rites. They chase rats on farms, and they're expected to eat the rats if they want to feed themselves. That's how cold it is. So rather than doing something about that, she has totally ignored it and just simply used the opportunity she's had to jack black men around. Be an interesting thing if the Jackass Party's candidate, Biden, gets elected That is what they call themselves, the jackasses. You know, that is a jackass that they've got for the mascot. Yeah, jackass party. If they get in, he's probably not going to last long, and he's been a zero, so I guess he'll claim credit for having the first woman in there as president. And if he resigns, it'll be an interesting thing. The first husband will be white, Jewish. That'll be a first. And you will have the first Aryan in there as president. Also, first woman Aryan. And that's technically the term for what she is. It's called Indo Aryan. It's the folk Adolf was so proud of, except they didn't have blonde hair, blue eyes. They look just like Kamasutra Harris here. And I said that because there's likely to be a series of scandals when her other flip side of hashtag Me Tooing came out. In other words, if she hadn't been successful, she'd probably be a poster child for hashtag Me Too about all of these men that abused her, from Mayor Willie Brown of San Francisco, who got her a gig at $72,000 a year for a 15-hour-a-week part-time job when she was in her early mid-20s, and then 122 gig a year when she got a 20-hour-a-week job a little later on, 750 BMW, 750i BMW, that's the V12 type. And then the law firm she had to go do a little bid action to get in with, and allegedly, according to the New York Times, a little bid action to get into being a DA. Go figure. I guess she's been reading the Kama Sutra. You know, if you help me out, we'll get page 46 midway down, on the page. We'll do that one. And we'll finish up with page 127 at the top.
Well, I got a good question for you, Judge. You know she supports legalized prostitution and a lot of other things. So
Well, that's what
illegal.
she's been doing.
I understand
mean,
that.
you do it for money, do it for advantage. I mean, don't be a hypocrite. Go all the way.
Well, now you're saying that she's a prosecutor, right?
Career
Was
prosecutor.
a
That's what
prosecutor.
she did. And the
Willie
most
Brown wanted her to be U.S. attorney.
Yeah, she probably could have got that too. That's basically political. You don't have to get elected; you just get appointed. Now,
I'm
the
reading the
thing
comment over
about
here in
it,
the chat.
I'm surprised Obama Tang didn't appoint her U.S. attorney for the area. They could have really gotten away with a lot of stuff then.
Well, I'm looking at a thing in the chat right here. A guy said, "Sad day. She's not even black." Well, at least somebody picking this thing up, right?
Oh, she's not black. See, if you ever look at Hindus, they are kind of dark, a lot of them. I remember on my show, there was this beautiful Hindu sister that everybody thought was a black woman until she came out and told everybody what she was. Nothing against them as a people, they're fine people. But many of them have been able to exploit their darker complexions and claim to be black Americans when it benefited them. A couple of them even wrote books about how they got scholarships or fellowships to school by cutting off their waving hair and claiming to be black.
Didn't she do that?
She didn't need to. Women are always trying to do that fry, dye, and lay to the side thing, So I guess she didn't have to get a weave. By the way, Biden has never broken a promise, and he promised that he was going to name a gay, homosexual, or a lesbian to be his running mate. So he nominated Kamala Harris. I guess he wasn't lying, so I guess she's the lesbian.
Well, she supports all that. She actually supported men being in women's sports too.
Yeah, I
That's
know
another
that.
one.
That's crazy. But she's a liar. Like, for example, she was trying to claim when she was going around talking about she smoked dope. She used to do it up in the dorms when she was studying, listening to Tupac and Snoop Dogg. Well, the interesting thing is she's in her mid-50s. So if you take all the way back to 18, I think Snoop Dogg was about 10 years old, 11 years old. Tupac was like 8 or 9. So I guess that was some recording that nobody else knew about.
Well,
She claimed to
I'm
be
looking.
listening to him in a dorm, but when she was 18, one of them was 8 or 9 years old, and the other one was 11 or 12.
Well, let me say this to you, Judge. How you feel about this one? They say when she was elected that she was the second coming of Obama.
The hell with
So,
Obama's ass. What did he do for us? Mulatto, Kenyan, Bushman, Keynesian, Indonesian.
well, watch
None
this.
of the experiences of culture of black folk.
Well, watch
Went
this. I'm
to
gonna
a
throw something at.
$45,000 a year tuition high school that didn't include room and board in Hawaii. He was the only black in the class, old school, and I think the tuition now is 150,000 a year with no room and board. That's where he went to high school. He came from one of the 10 or 15 richest families on earth, and his adopted daddy was wanted under a warrant that the U.S. State Department got quashed by the Hague, alleging that he had killed between 500,000 and 300 and 500,000 and 750,000 people when he ran the death squads for Indonesia 58, 59, 60, 61.
Okay, now
Yeah.
let's get to it. I
And he
want
was
to get
all
to it.
oil baron too. So Obama's net income reported by Business Insider for 2018 was $570 million on a gross income of 1.25 billion. And that was his draw. That wasn't his total income. He's a beneficiary of a trust fund of one of the richest men on earth. Well, was who died in 1987, supposedly for multiple injuries suffered in car wrecks,
Okay,
multiple car wrecks. He
now
was
I'm gonna
actually
give
in the spy business, but anyway.
I'm gonna give you another one. So I was looking at Facebook the other day, and there's a guy he put up there. The thing I appreciate about Obama was that he was a regular dude with no connection to politics. He was just a regular guy. I said, brother, this is so far from the truth. Come
Oh
on, man.
hell! Look at it this way: Obama, Barry Soetoro is the name he got raised under. George Herbert Walker Bush, George Walker Bush, Dick Cheney, Warren
And Brad
Buffett
Pitt.
are cousins. They're blood relatives through his mama. So come on now. He got raised around them. That's why George W. is always giving his wife Michelle candy, which is supposed to be the same kind of candy that he gave Barry when Barry was a kid. That's
Ain't that
interesting.
something?
His grandmama pimped his mama out. She tried to make life comfortable for a CIA importee to wit Obama Tang's biological daddy, uh, so that Kenya would have a generation that was friendly to the U.S. instead of going commie, as they thought Jomo Kenyatta was going to take them with his Mau Mau thing. So they brought him over here on a fellowship, and Grandmama pimped out her daughter and got him some young white booty, but she got knocked up. And there is a birth certificate that circulated for a long time out there, and it showed it was sealed appropriately. It looked genuine, and it shows that the boy was born in 1961 to an 18-year-old unmarried female from Kenya, and the father was listed as an Obama, a Kenyan citizen. It was supposed to be what, Nairobi? Yes. And
Yeah.
that's interesting. Then
Well, here
they
goes.
found that birth certificate in Hawaii that took him 18 months, 16 months, 16 to 18 months in the White House to get. Now, somebody that worked on my show years ago needed Hawaii's birth certificate on her to get a passport. I made a couple of calls from my office while she was sitting there, and within 2 days, one arrived by express mail. And you mean to tell me I could get something for that woman, 1999, which is almost 10 years
20,
before the Obama Tang was president of the United States, and it took him 18 months. See, what the issue is about that concerns this. There are various ways you can be a U.S. citizen. If your mama's a U.S. citizen, it doesn't make any difference where in the world you're born. But there are things that are under the Constitution that are requirements for being a president. You have to be born on American soil to be a U.S. president. And that means a state, territory, protectorate, consulate, embassy, military or naval base, canal zone, or anything like that. If you're born in Puerto Rico, American Samoa, on a naval base in the Philippines or Okinawa, you can run for U.S. president, but you can't be if you weren't born there, even if you are a U.S. citizen. Classic example of poor reporting is that Trump's runner-up, Cruz, was ineligible to be U.S. president. And that's because he was born in Canada by his own admission. He's not eligible to be the U.S. president, but nobody was talking about it. Just ignorance. By the way, that's why you have the Electoral College. They're supposed to assess such things and make a determination as to whether the individual matches up.
Well, the question I got, and I want to bring one more thing about Miss Kamala, and then we're gonna
Miss
go.
Queen Harris.
Well, this is the thing, Judge.
Is she supposed to be Slumdog Queen? SLUMDAWG. You remember the movie?
Well, the question I got to ask about her, since I know you're in California, Kamala Harris, with the support of Obama and Eric Holder, actually fought to keep 50,000 black men in jail after their time were up.
Oh, she did that. I mean, if you list her sins, they are long and voluminous.
Now, I gotta ask you a question. I know you sent me a text the other day. You said don't sing you no more soft porn or something like that.
The soft porn was about, some of this
Cardi
rainbow
B.
Skittles activity stuff.
Well, actually, it was about this video they got of Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh, that's right. Oh God, yeah.
But I know you have a saying, and what you saying that you said you didn't like the way they portrayed us in movies in the 70s with the black exploitation movies, and this is a repeat of that for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, but it's not a repeat, it's a continuation. It's getting worse. Just like they're putting all the Rainbow Bunch or the Skittles bunch in the movies, like the majority of America is that way if you look at the movies or TV or the kiddies' cartoons now. They're putting that dysfunction out there even worse. They're ramping it up because people are accustomed to it. That kind of thing would have been banned from television 50 years ago. But now people are so used to it that they go right along with it.
Well, the thing I was talking to a few women about it, and some women say they just expressing their sexuality, and some women say no, you're making us look
there are
like
a lot of women that are sluts. So I'm not surprised you got sluts who are supporting a slut.
Well,
you think like a slut, you tend to act like a slut, and you approve of slut behavior. There are a whole lot of gold diggers these days. That's become popularized.
Well, that's one of the things they were talking about in the song, Judge. Actually, talking about gold digging and
she
stuff
took
like
my money. Now I'm in need. She's a gold digger. Yes, indeed.
Well, the other question is, Judge, now when you were coming up, I know you probably had Superfly and
no, I didn't. That's not when I came up. Superfly was 1972, and we just said, "Oh hell no!" We were talking about burning the theaters down for showing that mess. But then they got all of the peasants out there, out the hood. Oh man, I'm gonna have to start looking at that coke, man. See, some people were talking about righteous brother, revolutionary this, and power to the people, black power. And then you got these folk that hadn't got the word. They saw Superfly and they got happy. And then the media started glorifying that bunch, and then it went to hell. College students used to be what was happening back in the 60s. By the time the 70s ended, you had to be a dope dealer, junkie, pimp, hoe, thief, murderer, or whatever you were doing in order to be in.
Well, I got something to say to you, Judge, about that because if you remember in 2017 or was it 18, they showed Black Panther, and then they released another thing, a Superfly, right behind Black Panther.
Yeah, well, they were both the same movie. Glorification of dysfunction. If
Okay.
you look, let's take Black Panther. The last big battle in there is a battle between who and what? The women of the tribe got weapons out trying to kill the men of the tribe, and vice versa. The women of the tribe got some other men as allies, but when they went and got them, they went up, and this is Africa now. They were in the high mountains above the snow line. Snow was coming down, and they were living in caves. There's nobody like that in Africa these days. So they were implying that the people they were going to were cavemen. So they came back and they were trying to kill off the men in the tribe. All right, the women that were set up to be all this and that, they were should have been shot for treason because they went outside the rules. Killmonger beat that clown in that tight suit, running around trying to play vigilante, fair and square. Even though they'd given him some drug to make him super strong, he still got his butt beat. And they committed treason. If you noticed, other than that clown with the lip plate in his mouth, I guess he's supposed to be the preacher stand in. Black men weren't doing anything except being menials. You looked at that laboratory, and the only black man that you saw in any of those lab scenes was one way off in the background pushing a cart. They couldn't find a black man to fly the virtual fighter plane. They had to get a white CIA agent to do it. Uh, Killmonger was quoting stuff from W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, uh, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Thurgood Marshall, H. Rap Brown, and they put those words in on the from the lips of a villain. And what had he done? He graduated from MIT as a rocket scientist at 19 because he's got a mind. And he joined the SEALs and was so badass about killing, they gave him the nickname Killmonger. And then he was preparing for the revolution, getting it together, and he was the villain. Meanwhile, they have him walking into clubs, the king, uh, with two hoes looking like he's a pimp, and they weren't his bodyguards, they were his managers. You noticed how they nagged him and kept telling him what to do and what not to do. And the king of Wakanda is, instead of being king, he's running around playing vigilante in some tights to deal with crazy white folk who gone out off the limb, so off the farm. So what's the point? It's all ridiculous. So they have all this technology that's 500 years ahead of the rest of the world. Killmonger is talking about using it to unify Africa and then the world and put some decency in it. And we're talking about, no, we can't do that. And then the final scene, you know how Marvel does when they break through in the middle of the credits and they have a little bit more about what's going on. Uh, House Negro boy in the tights under his suit tells the assembled committee at the UN, we're going to give you some of our technology. And a white guy stands up and says, why the hell should we care? You're just a bunch of peasant farmers, etc., etc. See, that's the movie. So what did it say? Just like Superfly, it's insidious. It snuck in all kinds of negativity.
Well, okay. Now I was gonna bring this to you. I was talking to a friend the other day, And he was talking about this cartoon named Doc McStuffings or something like that.
Oh yeah, I told you about that. That's this cute little black girl with a cute little dumbass brother and a mother who is for cartoon good looking, who is a doctor, a physician, and she got a booty like Nicki Minaj or Kim Cardi and Kardashian. And her daddy is a little sissified fool who's a stay-at-home house drone who cooks and cleans so his wife can devote all her time and energy to being a doctor instead of getting a job. And then she has this magic necklace that brings all of these animals and toys to life, and she doctors on them when they get broken or damaged. So it's setting up a negative image of black manhood because the brother is a fool, even though he's younger than she is, and they try to make her all this and that. So there are 5 women, and all of them lesbians, all of them white, that write, script, direct, and produce Doc McStuffins, one of the #1 children's shows, and it's poison. You shouldn't let your children or grandchildren watch that garbage.
Well, let me say something, Judge, but we're in a wild time now. You got these movies, and I mean, like I said, when I talk to you, I know one thing. If I don't get anything, the message is man up, manhood. That's what you stand for, right?
Man the hell up.
Okay. But it's almost like they're telling the black man to woman up now.
That's what they're doing. And plus, you see, if you woman up, you just, well, the way they say it, and they used to say it in the joint when I had to represent people and got out there, but it's been 30 years ago. They're trying to make black males into extra man pussy. And a lot of them are trying to be man pussy. That means they're just another hole to fuck instead of another man to deal with on a man basis. That's why a lot
Okay.
of them go that way. They don't have to put up with that man thing anymore where you got to make your stand.
Well, here's the thing I want to say, Judge, and I know you, since you was a judge and you probably went on corrections farms, corruption yards and stuff.
All the time.
You might have went on a farm where they were, messing with animals too. But here's the thing:
Yeah.
when you got on the yard, you sometimes find out the guys you think are the biggest, toughest guys are not always the toughest, right?
Well, what I found is when I went up to the serious penitentiaries or the hard time maximum security penitentiaries, federal and state, is they worked out with a lot of iron basically to get strong enough so they could determine who screwed them in the butt or whose dick they sucked. They just didn't want to be taken advantage of. That's the first time I saw sagged and bagged, literally 40 years ago. It was July, and one of my law partners had been murdered. He was handling some drug matters, and I had to take over some of his cases. So there was a delayed appeal, and I was up there. It's 100 degrees, and the air conditioning had broken down. So I was out on the yard. I'm talking to this guy, writing notes in a yellow pad, and I looked up. He said, "Oh, Lawyer Brown, I know what you're looking at, man." He say, "That's man pussy, man. See, that's what we trying to do. Everybody up in here, we doing, most of us doing life a long time, and like these short timers, we just girling them up. See, we make them wear their pants hung down like that. You see, so see them trees over there, when the guards ain't around, we bend them down, pull them down, get down. If they try to run, they fall down around their ankles and they trip and they booty up in the air. That's where we want them. And in the evening, when we on the block, we make them take them pants and they drawers off. Don't let them wear no panties, nothing. And that baggy shirt be his dress. We already made some jewelry for him up in metal shop. And Jamal, he waiting on a care package from his sister with some eyelashes, mascara, rouge, mask, plastic fingernails and polish and some lipstick. We gonna girl dude all the way out.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that was 1980. And then by 1990, it became a sign that somebody had spoken for you and you was his personal booty, man pussy. Like the dudes used to say, clients used to tell me, we got everything up in the pen we need behind the wall, but we ain't got no soft booty, so we make some. That'd be some new man pussy. So all these kids walking around sagged and bagged looking like they man pussy. It amazes me, but I guess this gay thing is spreading widely, even though some people are perpetrating something they don't know about. Though that man pussy thing is so prevalent up in the jails that I guess maybe they're getting ready so it don't hurt them too much when somebody take that booty for the first time up in the joint. They already have given it up.
Well, you know what that shows, Judge? That shows what you always talk about, as far as a breakdown in society.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this, that you are, when you always talk about this. But matter of fact, we gotta talk about this right quick, because I want to make sure we get this straight. So I was talking to a lady earlier today, friend of mine, and we were talking about. She told me straight up, "I'm so sick of BLM. I don't know what to do." I said, "Well, you're gonna be sicker, because I was watching a basketball game the other day, and you see all the players with the Black Lives Matter shirts.
I see. Don't know what they're doing. It's
Um,
actually ought to be uh bitch lesbian mania. Oh, black lesbians matter.
well,
That's what
and
they're pushing.
then they had another thing where they were saying they didn't practice that day. They said they took the day off to talk to NBA players about voter education. Like, what is all this about? But when you really get down to it,
They're
and you
trying to turn Trump out because he's a man. He ain't no pussy, trying to give up man pussy like so many, either pussy or man pussy, like so many in the black caucus.
well, okay, well, I was gonna say this about BLM, but you said change it to BFM. That's what you
Yeah,
say. Change it to
black
B.
folk matter. Black families matter. Black fathers matter. Black finance matters. Black faith matters. Black fraternity matters. And I'm not talking about the social clubs. I'm talking about brotherhood. You know, black fealty matters. That's loyalty. All kinds of things you can come up with other than read that mantra. The third thing from the bottom says we are a queer affirming network. And then the next thing under that is straight out of NAMBLA. That's North American Man Boy Love Association. And that one is on code. It's about there should be no uh, requirements of age for consent or for being unable to direct yourself. That's what these really sick freaks that ought to be executed say when they start molesting children.
You in Tennessee, right?
Right?
Okay, let me tell you some things going on in Virginia. So our mayor, he wants to legalize marijuana. That's one thing, but that's not. I'm not getting too hard on that. I mean, you know that I don't agree with it, but because I know what they'll do to us, because we've been doing that for a while. But here's the thing: now they got this thing with permits, right? And they're trying to say, maybe if you get a permit, you might can get the permit, but you can't have a gun with the permit. So if you want to do a gun mod, you can't have guns or
Yeah,
whatever, you
I
know.
know. You got some assholes that are too deep into being man pussy that are trying to run shit in Virginia. You got some man pussies.
Well, what I'm gonna ask
I
you,
mean, that's your business if you want to be a man, piece of man pussy, but it is what it is. Come on, that means you're opting out of the man thing. You don't understand what it is to be armed, and then for the women, I don't get it. 150 years ago, they had a slogan: God made man, Colonel Colt made them equal. Well, women need an equalizer with all these freaks running around.
well, did you see? You saw the article I sent you the other day that they showed that black people are buying more guns ever, and women are buying them at the highest now.
Yes, isn't that something? The
Well,
highest, in the highest percentage of purchases of ammunition and firearms amongst the various demographics is with black folk in America.
Well, listen. I mean, and I wanted to show you this because
Highest increase in purchase.
In Seattle, Washington, just yesterday, Seattle, Washington, just yesterday, they announced that they're going to defund their police department in a 7-1 city council decision, and the chief of police retired because
they didn't want to pay him what they agreed to pay him, and guess what? He's the first black to hold the position.
That was a woman.
Is it she?
She.
She. So I find that interesting. Doesn't that sound rather inconsistent with this position? About get women and they get jacked up because they don't make as much money. They cut her salary down a third. So she said, "The hell with you. I can go someplace else." And by the way, they aren't going to get away with that. And if everything helps, if anything helps, Trump can send in the feds, U.S. Marshals and stuff, or Homeland Security, because the new laws have charged Homeland Security with being responsible for Homeland Security everywhere. Anything from disaster relief to roads collapsing comes under Homeland Security, and lack of order and peace and dignity in an area, public peace, dignity, and order.
How do you feel about Trump not giving money to Democratic cities that have been ruined?
That's a good idea. Why not? See,
yeah,
by the way, that thing for the COVID-19 stuff, you have to understand the reason that the sum is reduced from 600 to 400 is because the president cannot spend what is not allocated. So what he has done is he's fudging a bit, and he's claiming there's money in the account that has been appropriated by Congress for disaster relief. So considering this disaster, this COVID thing, because it's a disease that is natural causes, he's stretching it and saying, I can appropriate some of that money to keep up COVID payments. There's not enough in there to pay $600 a week. There's enough for $400. So before he can do anything else, Congress has to appropriate the funds. Now, the hang up between the Republicans and the Democrats is because the Democrats want to add riders. Riders are something that has nothing to do with the bill. So what you're talking about is COVID-19 relief. They want to put expenditures in there for indigent freaks to have sex change operations. They want to have money put in there for gay rights. They want to have some new legislation that will go another step toward legalizing pedophilia and stuff like that. So they've got a wish list that they're trying to hold COVID-19 relief hostage to. So Trump just said, screw you, I'll do it executive order. There's still a bunch left in the disaster relief fund, so I'll spend that.
Well, I will say this. They also want money for mail-in ballots, and you know the deal. I mean, you know what they're trying to push. They also want cannabis. This thing is wild.
Like goddamn black folk, please. Got enough problems with work ethic, concentration, and getting shit together. You don't need to be running around high. Come on now. What you happy about legalization for?
Well, I want to say something to you. And we were talking about gun laws, right? But we do understand that Baltimore, Chicago, New York, California have the strictest gun laws in the country, but yet
highest crime rate. See, it doesn't stop it. I know from all of the fiends I used to represent 30-some years ago, 30 plus years ago, 40 years ago, when I did criminal defense law, which is basically most of what I did. Some of those folk are fiends, and you ought to be glad some of them are up in the penitentiaries because you don't want them walking around amongst you. and they would not go in areas where they thought the people, say in Memphis, Shelby County, were armed. No, man, they pack and they strap, man. I ain't going out there and getting shot. This is my job, man. I don't want no OJIs. You know what on job interview? Yeah, man. That's when you do what I do and somebody gonna pop a cap on you for trying to do it, man. I go to the low risk, man. That's why I stay in the hood, man. Ain't nobody gonna shoot you for the most part. You know, homeboy is packing, he ain't gonna be out there strolling. You know, you see somebody out there strolling, rolling, strolling, rolling. You know, hey, it's like that. So, yeah, I guess it is. But see, all of these little pansy pussy boys, you know, the man pussy types, they don't understand manhood, and a man owes it to it not only himself but to the people he's responsible for to be competent at being armed so he can protect them if necessary. That's a man's job. So you
Well,
walking around talking about you against guns and you ain't gonna be armed. Well, you just a piece of pussy, and you ain't worth a damn because that means any woman and any children you have no protection.
well, let me say something to you, Judge. I was talking to a lady the other day, and she said, she like, you a man, but sometimes you too much of a man. I said, what does that mean? She said, you need a man with a little bit of his feminine side in him. I said, uh, well, I told her that's not me to be feminine, so
Look
but
here, look here. Let's say this. I'm old now. Not that old, but I'm old. All right, retired. But I done got enough pussy in my life to have had a supply to give to 5, 10, 15, 20 other folk for the rest of their lives. I ain't worried about it, and ain't nothing up in there was ugly either. So, you know, um, I get it, and I supported my children, paid my child support, offered to send them to college, and if they were willing to deal with it, they got sent through college. I ain't broke, and I didn't kiss no ass, didn't bend over, drop my boxes, and didn't want to go run into anybody that did. Stood
speaking of
up,
that, Judge, you
damn
out there, you out there in Hollywood. So
for
I know you've
15
seen a lot of
years.
stuff lately with Miss Ellen DeGenerate.
Oh, that's,
Hey,
I call her Ellen DeGenerate. That creep and her wife tried to hit on my ex-wife one day. My ex-wife, beautiful woman, but she's sure enough athletic. She threatened to get in DeGenerate's ass if she put her hands up trying to touch her boobs. So you better get your hands away and stop trying to look down my top, fool.
yeah, well, I
Yeah,
want to say,
she's nasty too. I was on her set, and in 15 years, that was the worst set I've ever been on. She had it at 80 degrees. She was screaming at everybody on the set. She started to come over to raise her voice to me. I told her what she could do with herself. And me and my boys got up and left, and they had to prod me to come back, which I did. And I told her to go screw herself. She's nasty, mean, vindictive, evil, and ugly, and she
but
ain't funny.
well, you were
And
saying before she wasn't even a good
I was supposed to be on her show. Was we were both on KNBC4, which was the biggest TV station in America at the time. It was out of New York, and I was on before her, and my ratings were like 5.7, 6.2, 6.4, 5.8, and hers were 0.13, 0.21, 0.27. I think the highest she got was when I was on there twice. She got up over 1 point in the ratings, and then she dropped back down, and they canceled the show 2 weeks later. So they wanted me to come on to boost her ratings, which when I wound up doing it, they got boosted. But do you know they've canceled every single show she's had since that comedy was canceled, where it was a sitcom? It went 2 years, and then when she came out the closet, they canceled it. But every show she's had has been canceled for lack of ratings, but they want to lie and say she's Miss Superstar and all of this. They just glorify her because she was a poster child pussy eater with a pussy.
mm, isn't that
Right.
something?
Looked a lot better than she did because she's showing off ugly in person.
Well, I got one thing to say. You see Oprah now talking about how woke she is and all this stuff, putting up billboard.
Oprah ain't woke. Oprah was just picked by uh, Roger King, who headed King World. He auditioned 350 women. He told me, and he picked her because he wanted a poster child for, quote, he wanted a, he said, quote, I was looking for a poster child for ugly stay at home female America. And I found it in Oprah.
Well,
And
let me ask you a question right here because I
well,
wanna.
she made all the money for her. So, I mean, yeah, I guess to be the richest woman, black woman, is good. I mean, but Roger King made it
Well,
for her.
I got a couple more questions to ask you, Judge, and I'm gonna let you go. Um, because I know we were supposed to be on earlier, but had a few hangups. But I want to bring this to you. So now that you got Biden and Kamala Harris, I put it. I sent it to Brother Ron. I said this is the mass incarceration ticket. But also,
Isn't it?
but what do you think about Jim Crow Joe, Sleepy Joe? Let the audience know how you feel about Sleepy Joe.
Racist asshole. 1967. 68, 69. I was paying attention to it. I had a political science minor at UCLA and I was getting ready to graduate. I was keeping up on stuff. Joe Biden was running for political office in Delaware, which is the smallest state in the union. I literally ran across the thing, jogged across the whole state one time. It was only 9 miles. They don't even have an airport in Delaware. You got to land in Philly and take ground transportation. DuPont owns the city. They pay for all the schools and the roadways. Okay, Biden was campaigning that he would keep the animals out of the schools so they would not become zoos. He was talking about Negroes. He said, I know the Negro and I can speak for the Negro. They don't want to be with white kids. Okay, fine. He also had Faubus, Strom Thurmond, John Stennis, George Wallace campaigning for him. And he called them his friends. He said he was proud that Delaware was a slave holding state, but he was less than proud that it stayed with the Union instead of going with the Confederacy. He attributed that fact to the extortion of Delaware being so close to Washington, D.C.
Well,
That
well.
was in the 60s.
Now watch this, Judge. I want to throw something out there. But this is the guy that the news is telling you to vote for, but they're telling you that Trump is so evil. Oh my God, we gotta get rid of Trump. Oh
I
my
know
God.
Trump's a racist. But then, well, let's get up into the 70s. I was the public defender for Memphis in 1977. And I'm sitting in my office and I'm looking at my little portable black and white TV, and Biden's on there live giving a special celebration for Faubus, Stennis, Strom Thurmond, uh, George Wallace. Did I say that? Anyway, all the old line racists. He was saying they were his mentors, they were his heroes, and he did not lie. He promised that he would dedicate the rest of his career to walking in their footsteps, and he did. So, since he didn't lie about that, I suppose he wasn't lying when he said he was going to have either a gay boy or a lesbian as a running mate. So, looks like he did that. So, I guess Kamala Harris likes, oh, I guess, all kinds of Kama Sutra stuff, including the wild stuff that they even censored from that book. Yeah.
Okay, I got a question over here in the chat. So a guy wants to know, how do you feel about the NAFC movement? The Black Militia Gun Club thing. I want to know how you feel about that.
Well, I don't think I joined because it's so heavily infiltrated by now. That statement about going to Cleveland and burning it down if they didn't deal with Breonna Taylor. Well, that just shows ignorance. First off, what are they supposed to do about Breonna Taylor? It was negligence. Negligence, well, the police shot her. Well, here's what happened. The officers involved were in a special fugitive squad. They got a notice, a faxed in warrant, which was in error. It had the wrong address on it. The warrant said that the individual sought was known to be armed and dangerous. They've got a duty to carry out the law, and if they had not carried out the law, you know, you've been involved with the prison situation. That's dereliction of duty. So doing their duty, they went to serve the warrant. When they got in there, somebody opened fire on them. In their state of mind, they know the warrant says armed and dangerous suspect. They returned fire. Quite a few shots were fired. They didn't hit him, but unfortunately, several of the bullets penetrated a sheetrock wall, and 7 of them hit sleeping Breonna Taylor. So now she's dead. But that's no evil intent because they were shot at, so they certainly had a right to defend themselves. It wasn't even police work. Now, the person that shot at them was the boyfriend, so he had a right to be there. And under the castle doctrine, when they entered, he had a right to shoot, so he did. So he was released without charges. Nobody committed a crime, but it's just flat out negligence because apparently some dispatcher took a smoke and came back and forgot to tell them or let them know that the warrant had been served. So that's negligence. The family gets a big recovery, and maybe they'll feel better about that, but no crime has been committed. That's exactly like what happens if somebody doesn't have one of these stupid little collision avoided putt-putt cars for the people that can't drive, and they run into somebody's rear and somebody gets killed. Well, that's not a crime, that's negligence. Or if somebody makes a miscued lane change and somebody gets killed, that's not a crime, that's negligence. Or somebody is in an icy condition and there's a mass pileup, somebody gets killed, nobody's going to jail for manslaughter because that's negligence. Same thing with this. Not every killing is criminal. It's negligent, but there's no crime for anybody to be charged with. And certainly you don't go out and say you're going to burn down Cleveland, because I can guarantee you that the FBI, Homeland Security, and local police agencies are going to now have a lot of members up in there who are taking notes on everything that's said, done, and observed. Just not cool. You don't make statements like that. You either go do it and don't tell anybody and have a cell that knows about it and not one outside of it. You don't go up and say, we gonna burn down Cleveland. You know, that didn't work with H. Rap Brown. They got Ron Karinga of Kwanzaa fame and the US organization to set up H. Rap Brown. And hell, I know, I saw it happen. I was one of his bodyguards for the week he was in LA that time. And the US organization said they take care of his luggage. We were trying to say, man, don't let them take your luggage, man. They'll do something wrong. And sure enough, they put a carbine in the luggage and he got popped and they had a pending federal case. He did some time.
Well, obviously you're
Not
saying
saying don't arm. That's a good idea, but maybe they don't mind being sacrifices for the cause by popularizing it to black folk. Hey, man, it's all right, you know, and nothing else coming down on you. And one good thing about the Breonna Taylor thing, the brother that is the boyfriend stood up, he opened fire. But you see, they didn't kill him. They tried to, but they didn't. And he's not charged with any crime because he committed none.
so.
Take
So,
heed.
so what you're saying is this is a good example to take of a black man fighting back.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay,
He's dangerous.
I
Dangerous.
agree with that. I agree with that. Yes, he did fight back. So that should be a story that a black man did fight back.
Exactly.
That's a good one. I can agree with that. That's a good point. Now, what I will say, about this case, and I'm gonna leave it at this. You got so much other stuff going on. Like you just said, he shouldn't tell his plan, just go do it if you're gonna do it.
Duh. But you
So
see, it's always, not always, too much these days about symbolism and appearances rather than reality.
so what you're saying, if you're gonna be a revolutionary, just do the revolution thing, but you don't gotta broadcast. I understand. I understand where you're at. Because I understand. I'm just taking this from you now. You know, you're 73, but when you were out there with the the Black Student Union and these
Black
the
Panther
Black
Party,
Panthers,
yeah,
you
and all the
you
rest
didn't
of it.
you didn't do a lot of talking. Y'all just went and did it. I understand.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I understand. That's a
We
that's
had
a
our
good answer.
shows and demonstrations, but nobody was saying what we were going to do. It's just things got blown up, burned up, people got jacked up, and the message got out quietly. And nobody
So
lost any face when they said, well, I think maybe we need to give these black guys some of the things they're asking for.
well,
They
you
didn't
know,
have to say, somebody kicked my ass last night and I don't know who.
well, I appreciate your honesty, Judge. You always, bring light and wisdom to conversations. You make a lot of people think, and you do a good job of preaching manhood.
Well, could I go back to one thing I just thought about?
What guy here?
Come Queen, Slum Doggett, Kamala Harris. Or I guess since she's female, wouldn't it be Slum Bitch instead of Slum Dog? The dog is a male, bitch is a female. Slum Bitch. That, they can't even get mad at you about that on Twitter. So yeah, Slumdog Camilla is talking about she used to smoke dope up in her dorms, listening to infant Tupac, Snoop Dogg before they got out of elementary or junior high school. But she's smoking dope. But she had a reputation for having the most hellacious, simple possession prosecutions against black men
Over
just about
1,500.
anywhere in the United States. And then
It over
everybody was smoking
1,500.
dope in San Francisco, but the only people that were getting jacked around were young black males. And she was in charge. Isn't that kind of hypocritical?
Yeah. Now, Judge,
Slumdog.
you people need to follow you on Twitter. So shout your Twitter address out for the brothers and
Yeah,
sisters.
it is me. I'm not faking being me. It's at Judge Joe Brown TV. At Judge Joe Brown TV. All of the words run together, and first letter of each word, Judge, Joe, and Brown. That's capitalized, and right on that tail end, TV in capitals.
Well, I got two things for you I want you to do. Give a word of advice to the brothers and give a word of advice to the sisters.
Hey, brothers, man the hell up. Stay strong. Sisters, you don't need a thug to drag you down. Pick somebody who's upward bound in life, who can make where you are in life better than you can make it by yourself. And be gentle and kind.
Well, Judge, always a pleasure talking to you, and we'll talk again soon. So keep fighting, brother. Keep pushing, and keep on giving that enlightened wisdom. We love you madly. Keep on pushing, and you have a good night.
And if you got to, I know you may have to beep this so Facebook doesn't jack you around or something. But
Yeah, I'm in
anyway,
jail right now, Judge, so it doesn't matter.
well, I like that phrase, slum dog, come queen.
Put it on Twitter.
I'm going to. All right.
All right, brother.
Okay.
You have a good night.
You too, my brother.